start with the opening ceremonies. May I call on the Chairperson of the Commission on Higher Education of the Philippines, Dr. Patricia Licuanan, for the welcome message.
Honorable Mario Montejo, Secretary, Philippine Department of Science and Technology, Undersecretary Ferdinand Begley Jr., SOM Vice Chair, Dr. Wang Yan, EdNet Coordinator, Honorable Malakay Tabar, Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology of Papua New Guinea, Ms. Romy Tincopa and Mr. Alex Rogers of the HRDWG and PPSTI APEC Program Secretariat, esteemed representatives from the APEC economies, friends of the SOM Chair, observers, guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On the occasion of the first APEC High-Level Policy Dialogue on Science and Technology in Higher Education, I would like to express on behalf of the Philippine government our warm welcome to Manila to the representatives of Science and Technology and Higher Education Ministries and other distinguished guests. Thank you all for coming. We come together in dialogue for 2 days as members of APEC because we are in pursuit of one goal: building partnerships in science and technology through higher education. Although APEC was originally conceived of as an economic vehicle that can drive our growth as a region, we cannot ignore that our progress as a regional community is also strongly correlated with our ability to invest in science and technology, produce knowledge, and generate innovations. The outcomes of these investments form part of our capital assets as individual economies and as a region as a whole. Hence, when we talk about globalization, or as APEC, we invariably have to talk as well about science and technology across borders. In the spirit of regional scientific explorations, discovery, and progress, we do not have much choice except to see these endeavors in the context of regional and interregional collaborative mechanisms in science and technology. Operationally, this involves the exchange of ideas, facilitated flow of scientists, experts, and other human resources, possibly a sharing of institutional resources, but most importantly, working on science and technology platforms or agenda to seek solutions to our common concerns or problems as a region. Indeed, science and technology has both an economic good dimension and a public good dimension. But at the center of all of these is developing well-rounded human resources, the innovators, and on a common staging ground, the higher education institutions. As science and innovation expand, we have to ensure that, as a region, we have a well-designed innovation ecosystem that is conducive to producing innovators, both in good numbers as well as quality. We certainly hope that our conversations about common regional concerns in 1, food production and security, 2, environment, disaster risk reduction and response, climate change and energy, 3, marine resources and systems, economy, biodiversity and conservation, 4, smart analytics and engineering innovations, and 5, health systems, can lead us to a deepened appreciation and analysis of the imperatives in building and fostering this so-called innovation pipeline. How do we increase the levels of higher education enrollment in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics? How do we reshape STEM curricula in higher education so that they produce well-rounded thinkers, innovators, lifelong learners, and leaders? How do we make research careers attractive to the young in the APEC region? How do we boost participation of women? How do we promote and facilitate the mobility of students, faculty, and scientists and experts within the region? All of these conversations, we hope, can lead us to the expected outcomes of this dialogue, which are increased mobility of scientists and experts, academics and researchers, and cross-border education and inter-university collaboration. Speaking as co-chair of the High-Level Policy Dialogue on Science and Technology in Higher Education, I ask all of us to help each other out in thinking about possible scaffoldings on which to build functioning and sustainable partnerships, bilaterally at the beginning perhaps, and multilaterally as we move along, on projects, initiatives, or programs that can help us address these human resource development issues in science and technology, and on ways to optimize higher education institutions as platforms for developing the 21st century innovators. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I now ask Honorable Mario Montejo to give his welcome message. Honorable Montejo is the Secretary of the Department of Science and Technology.
Thank you. Co-Chair, Honorable Patricia Licuanan, Commission on Higher Education of the Philippines, His Excellency Minister Malakay Tabar of Papua New Guinea, Deputy Minister Kong Pam Tak of Vietnam, heads of delegation, members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow workers in the government of the Philippines, delegates, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am pleased to welcome you to the APEC 2015 High-Level Policy Dialogue on Science and Technology in Higher Education. It is an honor to have you with us as we discuss how we can all advance higher education learning in science and technology to make it truly responsive to the needs of the changing times. The Philippines is one with our fellow APEC member economies in our aspiration for a better quality of life for all our citizens through science, technology, and innovation. STI serve as key drivers in improving productivity, generating jobs, and spurring economic growth that is both sustainable and inclusive. That is why since 2010, the Department of Science and Technology has continuously strengthening and enhancing the Philippines' S&T-based innovation ecosystem. We have been increasing our capacity in the critical fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, primarily through our higher education institution. A substantial amount of our research and development outputs and innovation have been produced through our universities and colleges, from both private and state-funded. The same can be said for most of the APEC community, and as such, it is necessarily critical for members' economies to look into the state of our HEI and explore ways to promote and strengthen collaboration to meet national and regional goals. This high-level policy dialogue will tackle the following three themes. One, ensuring relevance, utilization, and contribution of products of S&T in higher education to economic development in the APEC region. Two, technologies and S&T concern of the future, implication for future careers. And three, innovation in higher education delivery modalities and strategies. It is our hope that our discussion would enable us to identify concerns common to all economies and help us collectively find solutions in addressing them. With the global integration, economies are now clustering together and sharing strength to uplift regional capability. This further highlights the significant role of higher education in the context of global integration. In less than two decades, the Asia-Pacific region has been found to possess the largest and fastest growing higher education sector worldwide. Recent studies in 2011 have shown that the countries of East and Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific have about 50 million tertiary students compared to 14 million in 1991. In China, Singapore, Chinese Hong Kong, Korea, and Chinese Taipei, where families are deeply committed to give the best education for their children, world-class higher education institutions are rapidly emerging with the support of government that see knowledge and skill as key to providing a better quality of life for their citizens now and in the future. In the Philippines, we are strengthening our universities by establishing consortia that serve as a venue for discussion and exchange of ideas and experiences to come up with innovation in tertiary S&T education programs. Our science and technology scholarship programs are being re-engineered to respond to the direction and trust of our roadmap in S&T development, in producing the critical mass of highly trained scientists and engineers in the most areas needed. Our other programs to strengthen our tertiary STEM education include capacity building for our educators, support for research activities, and university partnership, among others. We are taking this opportunity to bring our universities to the rank of world-class institutions that are able to produce globally competitive scientists, engineers, researchers, and educators. Ladies and gentlemen, delegates, in 2011, APEC leaders committed to setting goals for regional student mobility by 2020 and other education goals shared by all 21 APEC economies, affirming that we will endorse a target of 1 million APEC university-level students per year by 2020, as well as support further work that will enhance the mobility of students, researchers, and education providers, and the network of existing bilateral agreements. Today's high-level policy dialogue will surely contribute to the APEC leaders' commitment for regional student mobility by 2020. We are positive that APEC members share a far-reaching desire to empower our higher education institutions through regional collaboration and close the gap in terms of the differing levels of advancement in the existing higher education system among economies. It is indeed exciting to think about the possible outcomes of this dialogue in terms of cooperation and agreements. Let us welcome the challenge at hand with great optimism and a sense of harmony for the region. Again, welcome to this dialogue, and I wish everyone a successful and fruitful discussion. Thank you.
Is Honorable Ferdinand Begley Jr., SOM Vice Chair and Undersecretary, APEC 2015 National Organizing Council, Office of the President of the Philippines.
Good morning. Secretary Tati Licuanan, Secretary Mario Montejo, the esteemed heads of delegation, as well as their respective teams from the different Asia-Pacific economies, our distinguished speakers, friends, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to join the secretaries in welcoming you to the Philippines, particularly to Metro Manila. For those who have been here since the PPSTI, we do hope that you've been having a fruitful and enjoyable stay. And for those who have just arrived, we warmly welcome you. Allow me to go back in time, 19 years ago, when we first hosted the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. This was the time when APEC only had a membership of about 18 economies, and we hosted it in Subic, Philippines. Back then, our leaders stated that the ultimate objective of our individual and collective endeavors is to enrich the lives and to improve the standards of living of all our citizens on a substantial basis. This is a vision that was relevant then, as it is extremely relevant until now. With that ultimate objective in mind, APEC 2015 is working under the theme, Building Inclusive Economies, Building a Better World. And we have 4 priorities, namely, enhancing the regional economic integration agenda, fostering the participation of micro, small, and medium enterprises, or what we call MISMIs. As you very well know, our trade ministers passed or adopted the Boracay Agenda to globalize MSMEs last May. Third priority is, of course, investing in human capital development. And fourth, but not necessarily the last or the least, is building sustainable and resilient communities. These 4 are interlinked and mutually reinforcing, as you might notice, because they cut across sectors, and not one of them can be attained by any single APEC fora working on its own. Therefore, the operative word is collaboration, or better yet, cross-fora collaboration. As such, the high-level policy dialogue on S&T in higher education contributes to all 4 priorities. But this dialogue's primary contribution is to the 3rd and the 4th priorities, namely human capital development and building sustainable and resilient communities. The theme of this policy dialogue, which is developing 21st century innovators for sustainable and inclusive growth, is highly relevant to the objective set out by our leaders way back in 1996, as it is very much aligned with this year's hosting theme and priorities. The recently concluded Policy Partnership on Science and Technology Innovations, or the PPSTI, which preceded this policy dialogue, put a spotlight on helping build resiliency in the Asia-Pacific region. This is certainly a step in the right direction because inclusivity and sustainability cannot be attained without building resiliency, given the new normal, consisting of frequent and stronger impact of natural disasters and increasingly interlinked production and supply chains. Combined, they are the new normal. And empirical studies have shown that the marginalized and the vulnerable, including the women, the elderly, and the children, are often among the hardest hit by disasters. This needs to be addressed if growth and development in the Asia-Pacific community were to be truly inclusive and sustainable. The challenge for this policy dialogue, then, is to work towards ensuring that innovations are done not just for the sake of innovating, but with a clear intent towards greater inclusivity, resiliency, and sustainability of growth and development in the Asia-Pacific community. In this light, the APEC Science Prize for Innovation, Research, and Education, or ASPIRE, for which there was a very fruitful awarding ceremony about 3 nights ago, is an effective way to promote application-oriented and practical scientific and research works. ASPIRE's theme this year, which is Disaster Risk Reduction, Understanding the Role of Climate Change and Variability, is particularly relevant as the Asia-Pacific region tries to adapt to the new normal. One approach that can help us meet the challenge of translating innovation into results and applications is to optimize collaboration with other APEC fora and even beyond. what we call cross-fora collaboration. As noted earlier, all 4 priorities, and even next year's priorities perhaps when we go to Peru, and even the goals of APEC require an increasingly harmonized and integrated approach in undertaking our work. This dialogue is in an excellent position to contribute towards this end because science and technology and education often serve as fundamental enablers in attaining the goals of APEC, especially that which was set by our leaders in '96. The Talent Mobility Initiative is a good example of a results-oriented initiative that will help attain the goals set by our leaders, because academic exchanges involving faculty and researchers from higher education institutions serve as catalysts for innovation and creativity, thereby contributing to greater inclusivity, resiliency, and sustainability of growth. Another area for cross-fora collaboration is on disaster risk reduction, or DRR. Just for the information of this body, there is an existing initiative at the Emergency Preparedness Working Group, and this is due for discussion by the Senior Disaster Management Officials Forum in Iloilo in mid-September, and it's called the APEC DRR Cooperation Framework. Because as we all know, disaster risk reduction goes beyond sectors and beyond boundaries. In our respective governments, not one agency can take on disaster risk reduction on its own. Addressing this challenge requires a holistic, integrated, and systematic approach. The contributions of science and technology and education in this regard is very clear. Perhaps this forum can consider this framework and identify or help identify initial points for cooperation and work very closely with the EPWG as well as with the other APEC fora that are related with DRR. Again, we have heard in the PPSTI that there are instrumentalities such as the APEC Climate Center, which can be tapped to empower APEC's agenda on DRR cooperation. Of course, this is just one example among many others. So in closing, allow me to recall once again what our leaders set out in 1996, because to us, this is the one integrating framework which we should always remember as we might tend to get lost in the maze of processes, activities, and throughputs in the APEC system. The ultimate objective of APEC is to improve the standards of living of all our citizens on a substantial basis. And the challenge for this dialogue is to develop 21st century innovators who will respond in a concrete and tangible manner to the needs of our peoples in the Asia Pacific, particularly in attaining inclusive, resilient, and sustained growth and development. So on that note, we would like to extend our warmest congratulations to the co-organizers of this policy dialogue, and thank you all, distinguished participants, for your active participation in the next 2 days. We look forward to your contributions, and once again, we wish you a most fruitful and enjoyable stay in the Philippines. Thank you and good day.
Thank you, Undersecretary Cui.